Hello, everyone, and welcome to this brand new episode of Kerstin Means Business. And this is one of my favorite things to do because I get to talk to amazing people who know their stuff in their industries and who share their knowledge so voluntarily and gratefully to you guys, so that you can learn a lot. And I especially like to interview people who know things that I don't. And so today I have a fascinating person with me for so many reasons. So today I have Kerstin Martin, and she is a leading Squarespace expert and authorized trainer who started her own business in her 50s. Her popular online classes have helped more than 1,500 beginner and advanced users build beautiful websites, e-courses, and thriving businesses with Squarespace. She's also the creator of the Euler Planner, which is an analog business planner specifically designed for digital entrepreneurs. So I'll have to dive into what that is, because that is definitely something that I would probably get. And as an SHP and empath, Kerstin approaches business in a calm and gentle manner. Providing great service and delivering high quality content and training is at the core of everything she does. Originally from Germany, Kerstin lives in the beautiful Pacific Northwest with her husband and fluffy gray cat. I do love that, and I just had to kick my 3 cats out because they were just making the biggest fuss in here, so try not to be too distracted. So Kerstin, welcome so much to this episode. And so the first thing I adore is that you started this business in your 50s. So you need to tell me, I'm just too curious. You need to tell me what happened. And then how did you end up being an expert for Squarespace?
Oh, I know. Hi, Kerstin. And first of all, you are pronouncing my name the German way, Kerstin.
It's because I'm fluent in German, actually, so it's easy for me.
Yeah, it's perfect. And because everyone here calls me Kerstin. And yes. Also my planner, I actually call Yuli Planner. And you said Euler Planner.
Is that what it's meant to be, the Euler Planner?
It's actually meant to be Yuli, yeah. It's a German word, which stands for owl. And I know we'll talk about the planner in a little bit. And so I just pronounce it Yuli. I actually like it like that. So anyway, but yeah, I'm an accidental entrepreneur, and we totally. I've had the corporate career and all of that. I've worked in many different industries. I was in the airline industry for many years. I was a flight attendant. I've worked in the office, and I worked in IT and in hospitality, in education. I was the registrar for an international school, and I managed hotels. It's funny, because now looking back, I can see I've always been an entrepreneur. I always used to worry, that there's something wrong with me. Why can I not stick with jobs? Why do I always have to change it up every 3 years?
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Why can't I do anything from A to Z the way you're supposed to? Right?
I know. I was always a little jealous of doctors and lawyers. I thought, wow, they have such a straight career, and why can't I do that? And now, of course, I know I was always an entrepreneur at heart, and in 2014, we moved from the UK, where we lived at the time, to the US, here to the Pacific Northwest. And I thought, well, I'll just find a job again. I was in my early 50s. And then a friend of mine asked me to redesign her website. Now, I'd been dabbling with web design for years. I was a blogger. I've been blogging since 2005, and I was always redesigning my own websites. I just loved it.
As you do. There's new things, new trends. It's a living thing. Yeah.
And like you, I started out with WordPress and did that for quite a few years. And then I discovered Squarespace in, I think it was 2008 or something like that. And so I did that for my friend. It was a business website, and she paid me for it too. And it was such a success. It changed her business overnight, basically. And then someone else, so I shared that with friends. And then someone else came to me and said, oh, can you do my website too? And all of this happened while we were moving here. And then I thought, well, okay, instead of looking for a job, why don't I just become a Squarespace web designer?
There you go. It was right there, right? It's
It absolutely was. This was like the universe giving me a little tug, hey, you can actually turn your passion into a career, into a business. And yeah, so I did. And now, 5.5 years later, I designed websites for quite a few years. And then I started offering online courses. and I did both for a couple of years, but then for the last 2 years, I've only been doing online courses because there's only so much you can do as one person, basically. So.
And I mean, it is also a kind of area where doing courses is just presenting itself, because it's literally a map, it's giving instructions, it's showing a little bit of insider tweaks, but it's the perfect gateway to teach, because it's a user interface, right? So
yeah,
it's perfect.
Absolutely. And I've actually always done teaching one way or another. I used to facilitate workshops a lot in my corporate careers. And so I have always really enjoyed, sharing my knowledge and helping people. And so in some ways, this whole like online business, this whole like online world just really opened up so many opportunities. I'm a university dropout, I never did all of that. And for me now I even teach at our local college now, I teach evening classes in Squarespace. And for me to actually do that also in my 50s, it's like it certainly isn't what I had planned, but you know what?
Who cares?
I love it. I can never imagine going back,
I love your story. I love it so much. And it's obviously Squarespace has taken off like hugely. I mean, I don't know if it was Squarespace first or Wix first. It's like, it's kind of this Adidas Puma kind of story, but it's just taking off. And I know that for so many of my clients, it's the first thing they do, because it's not everyone loves tech. I love dabbling around with websites. I could spend, I go into this vertigo kind of rabbit hole, and suddenly I didn't have lunch and it's in the evening and I have a whole new website. I love that stuff. But I know that for a lot of people, it's not intuitive. They just don't like it. Yeah. Also, maybe, I don't know even if it's a generation thing, but I'm one of these half analog, half digital kind of generation where we grew up with nothing. And then we had, our first little websites that you started to put together. So, and we used code in the beginning. So it's
done that too.
To me, that's still, if someone says you have to paste code, it's not something I am scared of, but just people who are born 10 years later, it's a different story in a way, or who were born 10 years earlier. It's just a different space. And I find it so sad sometimes that people get stuck in a business because it's overwhelming, or they've spent so much money on a web design and it didn't turn out the way they wanted to. And we're going to talk about that too, the free pre-homework you have to do before hiring someone. But I love Squarespace. I think it's been well needed in this new online world that has been developing. But before we go into that, I want to talk about your planner, because I read this and I love an analog planner for digital entrepreneurs. How does that work? What is it?
Well, it's right here,
Oh, it's colorful.
And I actually just, I know we can't see it because it's a podcast, but
people can go to YouTube and they can see it. Like it's on YouTube too. I just
received my 2021 prototype, and so I've been using planners for years. I've always been a journaling kind of person, and in my even in my corporate career, I always had notebooks. And so, this analog component, just to scribble and just to, and it's funny because I'm generally quite a tidy person, I guess I'm German maybe in that regard, quite tidy and organized, but my planners are always quite messy,
Yes.
That's where I get messy, but I love that about it. And so I have used Leuchtturm journals, when I started my own business, and I just kind of came up with my own charts and things. And just over the years, I kind of developed my system. And then a few years ago, I also started using an annual journal, so where the dates were already, given. But I found I never had enough room in that for my notes and for my charts. And so I used like 2 journals basically that year. And then I thought, what? Well, as you do, why don't I design my own?
It's doable. Today you have all these platforms and tools.
I know. And really so I looked into it, and really between having the idea and holding, my planner in my hand was only a few weeks.
Yes.
So sourced the printer, that wasn't so, because that's the thing about, as you know, retail, unless you produce something in bulk, it's quite expensive, but I was lucky. I found a printer in Ohio, so here in the US, and who gave me a fairly decent price, for a small print run. I only did 50 that first year. And then I just shared it with people. Hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And had great feedback, and hence the Juli planner was born. And the name, is Juli stands, in German, as you said earlier, is pronounced Eule, and that stands for owl, which was my mom's favorite animal. And I dedicate this planner to her because she passed away 5 years ago, but she was the first online entrepreneur in our family. And she, for the last 10 years of her life, had a thriving Amazon bookstore. And she always wanted to be a librarian, but she never could do that growing up because she had, she was a single mom of 3 kids and all that. So when she retired and the internet happened, basically her living room was a bookstore. And every day she went to the post office and dropped off books,
That's amazing.
So she was really, and she still saw me start my own online business, and she loved it, so I dedicated that to her. So Juli is for that. And of course the owl is, wise and all of that.
Of course.
That kind of fits.
It's so funny. Like if I look at my desk, this is my desk right here. And one of the things I still have is this. This is my file of facts, and I think the last year you can see, like, there's crap in here, like literally there's
I still have a couple of those.
There's a Telco Europe call card to use in a phone booth to call internationally. And I think it was 2011, 2012 is the last year that I use it. So you can still see, like, things and then like names, and it's just, like, this is what these things look like, and I love it. I still have all the different, because it just changed it every year. But I remember sitting in a train and taking my address book and just writing all these names into my flip phone. And I still love going through I still have all these years, and because it's a diary, even if I don't have all the details in there, it's just different from an online calendar. It's just like,
I sometimes think, if I ever, if I ever was involved in like a crime or something, and they ask me, what did you do 10 years ago and 2 months?
No problem. Let me take this out.
My old diary. Exactly. I can tell you exactly what it was.
I never thought of it that way, but you're right.
I watch too many crime shows.
I'm addicted. I'm totally addicted. All right. Anyway, let's get to the heart of it, which is Squarespace. And so it's not my tool, like it really isn't, but I really believe that it is the perfect gateway. Now, one thing, and we're not going to dwell too much on that, but before anyone is like super excited and is already, registering for their account, really, I would say the first pillar of the Impact with Integrity method, which I teach my clients, is branding and niching, knowing who you are, what you want to do, what your voice is, being comfortable with who you are, being comfortable with expressing your truth without thinking this is what is expected of me, is just the absolute groundwork. Because if you don't do that, you can hire someone, and I find a lot of the time people expect the web designer to read minds, you know, and then they give kind of a brief, but not really, and it's up to the web designer to figure it out, and obviously they get a result that is not quite there, and they're super disappointed, and they have to go through a gazillion revisions, which costs them a lot of money. So please, 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 everyone, even if you don't want to have the whole system, do the masterclass on branding and niching. Now, if we have someone who's done that, what exactly should they look out for when they dive into their website, whether they want to make it on their own or whether they want to hire someone with Squarespace? Why did you pick Squarespace? So what would the process be?
Well, I think Squarespace is known for, two things. It's It's stylish and elegant. You know, they have really nice designs, and it's an out-of-the-box solution if you want. You know, so you can dive in. You know, you get templates, and then you basically make it your own. It's very user-friendly. And now, if you come, of course, from somewhere like WordPress, you know, there's still a learning curve because it's quite different.
Yeah.
But what I always loved about Squarespace is the on-page editing. You know, you go straight into your page and you can edit. You can see immediately, you know, what you're doing. And, you know, it's the WYSIWYG, you know, what you see is what you get. And they have this drag and drop technology, you know, so every web page is like a, you know, you have building blocks, and you can just take the blocks and put them where you want them on your web page. It's great. So it makes it, you know, really easy. Certainly a lot easier than something like WordPress. I mean, WordPress has many great things too. It's a very flexible system. But you have to kind of know what you're doing with that.
I agree. I think the most daunting thing with WordPress is, and also quick note, WordPress.com is not the same as WordPress.org. So we're talking about the WordPress building. So it's
self-hosted, yeah.
Yes. And basically, I think the complicated thing is to actually set it up. It's because you have to have your domain, you need to connect your domain to hosting, and then you need to connect that to WordPress, and then you need to get a builder. So those are 4 steps, whereas in Squarespace, literally you sign up, you get your domain, it's connected to Squarespace, and you're done. And I find that it's still, for me, who's had like 7 websites and counting, it's still a process. Where I would say, a little insider tip, you can, if you have a great hosting service. I know that, for example, SiteGround does that. You just send them a chat and you say, hey, can you connect everything? And they will do it for you. But a lot of them won't. So I find that is the most difficult one. And then depending on the builder that you had, it is also drag and drop, but it takes trial and error, and you need to obviously upgrade in order to get all the features. Whereas with Squarespace,
you're not as intuitive as Squarespace, you know, even those drag and drop builders, trust me.
I agree. You have to find, and they're all a little bit different, and you have to, you know, you have to have contents, your backgrounds, your sizes, and it's just, once you know what you're doing, it's practice and it's fine. But with Squarespace, I think it's just, if you've never tried anything, I would start there. It's just much easier.
Especially, they've just come out with a new version, 7.1, and that makes actually building a website much faster, even more intuitive. I mean, the page builder is just like, when I first saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, you know, this is amazing. And so, and you're right, you know, now you still have, of course, if you already have a domain name, then you still have to kind of connect it as well, you know, so there are still technical steps that you need to do. But what's also really nice about Squarespace is that they have really amazing help pages, but they also have a customer support team. You can contact them 24/7, and now not by phone, you know, just by email, or they have live chats. And but that actually has also been a game changer for me. That you actually you cannot call WordPress, you know, but you cannot call Squarespace either, but you can contact Squarespace.
At least you can do that,
and talk to someone, and they're really helpful. And nowadays there are so many online resources as well. So I feel, you know, unless you're like enjoy dabbling with technology, and you're like really technically inclined, then I feel Squarespace is a really great option, you know, for you to still build your own website if you don't have the budget for a designer. And but even if you hire a designer with Squarespace, it's going to be easier for you to maintain your website afterwards.
That's what I was going to think, right? So what should you look out for on a website? Because Squarespace has templates for a reason, because they know that if you're left to your own devices, it can go incredibly wrong. So what are some things where you are maybe, or that you've seen on a regular basis, that newbies, particularly who are just starting with a website, are maybe doing, like the pitfalls, just the typical things where you go to a website and you're like, cringe, my eyes are starting to bleed right now, like it's just like red flag, why? And I just know that you see the same things over and over again. So what are some of the terrible don'ts that you can tell people right now? Okay, please, my dear friend, do not do this.
Well, there are quite a few things. Of course, when you work with a template, it's very tempting to just basically, leave everything as it is and not make it your own,
Yeah.
and then it still looks like a template, basically. So I would say definitely don't be afraid to play around a little bit with colors, with images, with fonts. You don't have to, unless you really love the font, that's fine too, but just with images, nowadays you have really nice stock photography. I think images used to trip people up because it used to be expensive, to get stock photos. But Squarespace actually has a built-in library of unsplash photos, for instance, and they're free. And you can actually build a really nice website just with those unsplash photos. So I would say, don't use your iPhone 4 photos from 5 years ago that are low grade and photography and images is so that's like the first thing. I see people just use images that are very low quality, low resolution, and especially in banners, that just is not a good look. And
no, it's not professional. I mean, I do these little mini laser focus sessions where I just go through your website to give you feedback and give you pointers on what you can immediately change. And those photos, it's just like, no. Photographers are not that expensive anymore, especially if you live in a big city or if you visit a city, go to Airbnb experiences. You get amazing photographers between $70 to $180 for like 50 photos that are professional and amazing. It doesn't cost the world, and it's a great investment. It just makes it different from amateur to professional league.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I have to say, I've not done a photo shoot myself yet, but that's okay. I have all my own photos, but I don't have that many of me, But so even when you get started, and even if you don't have the budget for that, but I agree, I highly recommend as soon as you can afford to hire a photographer, do that, and. But you can still use stock photography and just make your website look nice,
Agreed.
And so that is like one of the first things. And then there are just like few like design elements, For instance, what I see a lot is where people have like a really wide, like website, and the text just is, there's no columns, it just like goes from left to right, and it's so hard to read. And, so try and use some design elements, like make the use of columns, make the use of bullet points, use images to break up a long piece of text, make it visual, because it's not a book. A lot of people kind of design their websites like their books, here's the content, here's what you should read. And it's a visual media, so you want to make sure that you use visual elements, beyond what you are given, by the template. And fonts is another one. A lot of people use really small fonts and very light fonts, like a light gray. And I know there is a minimalism movement out there for websites and that kind of stuff, but you still need your site visitors to be able to read, and some of us don't have great eyes anymore, by the way.
Exactly. That's what I was telling people. It's like, I can barely read it. How's my grandmother supposed to do that, or just like my mom, or, it's like.
Well, think about your audience also, who is your audience, and are they, how will they resonate with this, but I find, so these are just some very basic things. Make sure it's easy to read, that it's visually pleasant, watch your gaps, a lot of people also have sections with like no gap in between, and it's just, so there's just like a few small things, great photos, text not too big, not too small, and make the use of columns and things, so just a few very simple principles will already make your website so much better.
That's amazing. I agree. I find people cram way too much into their web space. They do use the kind of blog post in the 2000s look where it's just like everything in one pat text and then a couple of blue hyperlinks in there. It's just like, God, no, it's just too much. I can't handle it. No, for sure. And the small font is a pet peeve of mine, definitely as well.
Yeah.
Now, people, well, they should know what they put in there. And in the end, I think it's really important for people to know as well that it's not your designer's job to know what you write in there. Copywriting is a completely different story. We've been talking about it before, and we're going to talk about it later too. with copywriters. But I mean, that's not what we're going to talk about right here. What I want to talk to you about as well is something that I know you have a course on, because that's how we got in touch, or how you came on my radar, is because you have a course on SEO. And I want to talk about that very briefly, because I find that a lot of websites will never even be found if you don't have your SEO in place. And so SEO is just 3 letters, and it's an abbreviation for search engine optimization. And if you go into the SEO rabbit hole, it can be a very daunting, geeky, and driving me insane place, leaving me with headlines that don't make sense anymore. So first of all, maybe explain us the advantages of why does this exist, and in what kind of dosage should we use it that it makes sense? Because if you take it too far, it can make it just doesn't make sense anymore in a way. So you guys have no clue what I'm talking about. You will understand by the end of this discussion. So Kerstin, take it away. This is your thing. You know how to explain this much better than I do, because I just find it frustrating. And I also love it, but it's difficult for me to put into words.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. And many people feel like that, because they just find it overwhelming. It's very technical, potentially, and nobody really understands it. And
no, it's weird.
Well, including, like, what does Google really do? And we're just talking, I mean, Google is obviously the biggest search engine, but whatever Google does, the others tend to do as well. Sure. And, and nobody really understands it. And people, I mean, what can we do there? So, first of all, I mean, when I started out, I didn't even pay any attention to SEO. I built my website, I blogged, I did my, built my business. And then after a couple of years, I noticed that more and more inquiries were coming in from Google. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I searched and I realized, oh, I'm on page 1 for Squarespace Web Designer. Oh, really? How did that happen?
Why? Yes. Same for Sleep Like a Boss. I had no clue how I did it, but now I know, but yeah.
So I actually then paid attention. So I started paying attention, and I looked at all the things that I was doing. And so SEO is not something that happens overnight. SEO is not something where you configure your website and then boom, you're on page 1. That does not happen. SEO is actually quite a few things, and they talk about like on-page SEO, off-page SEO, and so I think it's well worth. There are a lot of resources out on the internet. There are courses like mine, but there are also a lot of free resources. Squarespace actually have their own help pages for SEO, for instance, which are really good, and So the first thing you always want to do when you have a website, you want to look at, so in my case, Squarespace, but also WordPress. WordPress, they have like the Yoast plugin and things like that. You want to look at what can I do on my website? What SEO configurations and settings are there that I can fill in? So again, in Squarespace, they have a SEO section in the, backend administration area, and you go there, and that's where you put in your SEO description, which is what, shows up when in the search results. And that's where you can do some other configurations, so you definitely want to do that. Then you can also add SEO specific things for each of your pages, for each of your blog posts or products. So you have a good degree of control over what the search result looks like, and keywords is a big one, of course. What keywords should you use? First of all, don't do keyword stuffing, where you have like a page description just stuffed with keywords.
It just doesn't make sense, and you notice it immediately. It doesn't work.
And you get potentially penalized, actually, because Google is very smart, the algorithm. And so also headlines, it's always recommended to have at least one, what they call H1 on your page. And, and use keywords in there if possible, but I always find, you should actually never build your content based on keywords. You should build it naturally. You should write naturally. because that will actually naturally bring out the keywords that you need for your audience, or for your audience to find you, because it's all about how can my customers find me. Nowadays everyone has Google, everyone goes online and searches, for services or products. So, think about, what might they, for instance, put into a search window? What kind of phrase might they use, and how can I use that on my website? But it's very important to be natural with it, because even there, Google knows. I don't know how.
I know, it's creepy. It's really true.
They know. And so don't repeat stuff everywhere, and just really, I always felt because so many people stress over this, and I always say, don't stress over it. Just really keep it natural. Think about your customer, when they come to your website, what are they looking for? How can you answer questions they might have, and just do that in your copy. And it will kind of, fall into place naturally. The other thing is also, Google likes activity. It likes active websites, which is why blogging is really great. Blogging is one of the best things you can do for SEO.
Amen. It needs to be a breathing thing. Your website is like your pet, literally. You need to feed it, which is your content.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy. I've heard that before. That's great. Exactly.
I just made it up. I'm very proud.
Great. And it's so true, and the thing is, once you also have, a body of blog posts, you can repurpose old ones, but Google looks at timestamps. It looks at, has the website been updated? And same with your pages. This is one thing that people often don't consider. They think, well, I do my website and now that's it. Now my website has to stay like this for the next 5 years. Well, no. The beauty of a website is, especially something like Squarespace, that's easier to update yourself. It's like an organism. It evolves, it grows, it changes, so you can absolutely keep changing, your content as well as you and your business grows. And so, don't be afraid of that. And don't worry about SEO either, because I feel the website will always reflect where you are in your business.
I agree. And you change. I mean, especially if you're in business, your personal development is it's a given. You have to, in order to stay in business. So your character will change, your persona will change, your voice will change, your preferences will change. And we age, I'm sorry to say, but even though I'm 25 in my inside persona, it's like we do get wiser. We do change our opinion. We change our mind. We change our preferences. And the world changes. I mean, now we're all about minimalism, but it's starting to change again. My new website, it's not going to be white and gold and just minimalistic. It's going to be super bold with like the print, like a house, like wallpaper prints are back,
Nice.
Everything is changing again. So you have to go with it, because don't forget that it's an expression of you. It's your digital house. It's your entryway. It's your home.
Yeah.
It's your home, so it needs to reflect you. And this is the great thing. You can't necessarily move every 5 years, when redo your whole inside of your home.
Oh, I don't know. I think you can.
You probably can. You probably can. But just as someone who's going to move for the third time in 2 years, I don't recommend it.
35 times in my life. So.
Oh my God, no. Ugh, nightmare. But this is easy to change, and it's an expression of your living space. It literally is. So I think that you have to do that in order to also stay true to your consumer, because people will judge whether they want to work with you, whether they like you based on your website and what it looks like. And if it's not who you are, if it's not representing you, you're fake, so.
Well, it's the first impression that people get from you, so, and it's like your calling card. And
it is. It is.
Yeah. And I mean, I absolutely agree. It is, I actually sometimes say to clients, I'm not even so much your web designer. I'm your website curator.
I agree. Yes.
Become a curator. And that's another thing that I feel is a very important, infuse the website with your personality, and use, for instance, through images, you can do that. And I've always used images. I mean, they're not always relating to web design, but they are images that means something to me. Like I have this one image on my website, and I found a place for it, which is of an alleyway in London at a London market that I used to go to, Columbia Road Market. You know, I love that market. And I wanted to use that because it means something to me, and it's a big part of who I am. So I used that photo, and from that photo, I got the colors for my new, because I redesigned my website a while ago. And from that photo, I found my color. And that's how sometimes it can work,
Exactly.
So don't be afraid to put yourself, into your website, because that's what people will respond to,
Agreed.
They want to get to know you. They want to know who you are,
Agreed.
So.
And to me, this year is the first time ever that I'm working with a brand strategist and a web designer. So less brand strategist because I'm very good at that on my own, being humble brag, but kind of.
Yeah.
But it's fun because I've always DIY'd it. And this is literally my 6th year in business where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go all in and have everything done by a professional. And the way that I convey who I am to her is via Pinterest. So we have a Pinterest board where I pin everything that I find is me, my colors, and it's not web design templates. It's shoes, it's wallpapers, it's sceneries, it's puppies. It's different things that allow her to see kind of who I am, and it's her expertise to draw out the correct colors, the correct fonts from the vibe that I'm giving her. And I love that process. It's a lot of fun, and it's a very honest, straightforward process. And then I'm excited to see, it's going to be done end of September, what she comes up with, because sometimes people see something in you that you don't, which I find is there's no genius. And that's where my next question would be coming in. Obviously, often it's a question of budget, whether you want to hire a designer or not. But I would also argue that it is, even if you are on a tight budget, sometimes it is a good idea to hire a designer. So what do you usually recommend to people? When should they definitely not hire someone, but when, obviously if they have the budget, why would it be a good idea? But also if it's an investment for them that can be a little bit scary, why would it sometimes be a good idea to still go for it?
Well, I always say it's basically, time and sanity versus money,
Sure.
Because hiring someone will save you time and it will potentially save you sanity. And, but on, the flip side of that, not everyone has a big budget, for a designer. But I feel, if you really are, even with something like Squarespace, if you really don't like technology, if you get easily frustrated and flustered, and if you just find it overwhelming, then I would actually say, then don't do it, because it will just cost you so much more, I would say in that case, maybe just try to, either maybe just put up something really simple to start with, and then try and make some money with your business until you have enough to hire a designer. Do your homework with designers. There are, for instance, new designers, when they're starting out, that don't charge so much, and, so you could start with someone like that. And, you don't have to pay $10,000 for a website.
No, I don't even pay $10,000.
I mean, when I started out, I only charge, I did some websites where people paid me $500, and I, at the time, I remember thinking, ooh, someone pays me $500.
I know.
So there are people that, and they're still good, they're still good designers. And so I would say, do some homework, but also really listen to yourself, how you feel about, maybe try it, maybe go to something like Squarespace, start up a template, start dabbling a little bit with it and kind of see how you feel, because...
I agree. Yeah, I'm just thinking of the people in our mastermind, and some of them are just, tech is not their thing. Like some... they still enjoyed it. They really got into it, and they were like a dog with a bone. They didn't stop, and now they are super proud. But others, they start and it ruins their whole day. Like they're exhausted. They get nothing else done because it was so frustrating. And that's when I'm saying, throw money at the problem, because it's going to be done within a week. and you're done. Instead of months of,
I used to do 3-day websites, I called them 3-day wonder websites, where I would build a website in 3 days. And I had so many clients like that, and they loved it, and then they didn't have to think about it anymore, because now they had their beautiful website and they could just focus on what they're good at,
Exactly. And they have enough to do. Like you still need to produce content, you still need to get clients, you still need to market, but at least this little piece is out of the way, and it is crucial though. So Kerstin, you have so many things, and I'm seeing you're super smart because all your handles are the same pretty much, which is Kerstin Martin. So your website is kerstinmartin.com. And you were kind enough to get us a freebie. So you have a whole library. It's not just one, but if you go to kerstinmartin.com/resources-library, you'll get a whole bunch of free stuff from Kerstin. And then if you go and go to the different media handles, usually you don't even need to type everything out. You start with Kerstin Martin and you will most likely find her, but we'll also add everything to the show notes so that you can click on her handle so that you can connect with her. So what can they come to you with? What do people usually ask you, or how would you prefer people to reach out to you, and what can they find? Like, what is the different suite of things that you offer them?
So it's all things Squarespace and online business. And so I help people, how to build a website in 2 days. I have a course, on how to do, and you can actually do it in 2 days. You don't have to though. All my courses are self-paced. So you can also take your time. I also show people how to host an e-course on Squarespace, because I do that as well. All my courses are hosted on Squarespace. I have a course on how to become a Squarespace web designer. So if you want to pivot, if you want to reinvent yourself, if you love design, if you love working with people, then it's basically a glimpse inside my own business, and how I've grown my business very organically, I want to say, and because I'm not a big hustler and never have been. So I share basically everything in there, on how to create a sustainable business as a web designer. I have a course on SEO, how to boost your SEO. And if you want to work one-on-one with me, I have Ask Me Anything sessions and groups, so my bundles, I have bundles also for my courses. And they come with a private group where I also have a CSS expert in there, where we help our students. And or, like I say, one-on-one is my Ask Me Anything sessions. And you can ask me a lot of stuff, I've kind of been around a day or two, so, but all things Squarespace, I'm a leader in the Squarespace circle, and I work quite closely with Squarespace. I beta test a lot of stuff for them, and so Squarespace is actually not just a website builder as well. You can actually also, they have an email marketing tool, they have a scheduling tool, they have a commerce platform, so they actually have a lot of things that you can, and it's all in one place. That's what I love about Squarespace, actually. Everything is in one place. I do my email marketing through Squarespace, and my commerce platform is on Squarespace, and that is actually one of the really nice things about it, and for all of that, they're actually not that expensive.
They're not. If you couple everything else together and you don't know what you're doing, you're definitely spending more money than if you do it properly.
I mean, they really are like an all-in-one platform, and they're adding things as well. They have membership is coming up soon, something
that is getting
I've been beta testing that, with one of my courses for the last few months.
It's getting super competitive out there. I mean, Kajabi needs to hold on tight. I'm a Podia person, which is
Podia is great too. Yes,
fab. But I'm seeing that everyone is picking it up, and it's a great place to be an online business owner because you have so much choice and it's getting competitive. Yes. So that's always good for us, right? Brilliant. Right. I'm super excited about this going out and having people reach out to you. And for all of you, I mean, please go out and check those courses, because I know you, all of you who are dreading their websites, who have just sitting there, not moving, not developing, not just collecting virtual dust, so, and I think this would be a great step, and it's going to help you make money in the end. So do reach out to Kerstin's, go to her website, get one of her courses, super affordable, and get going. Get your butt into gear. All right. Well, thanks so much, Kerstin, for being here today and sharing all this wisdom with us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Same here. Thank you so much, Christine.
All right. And all of you guys, you'll see me back in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye for now.